Okay, a warning up front. This video is going to be pretty long. For that reason, I'm going to have to charge extra, not just because the video is going to be long, but also because I spent probably, I don't know, a good 15 hours fiddling with the homework and trying out different things and tracking down weird errors and whatever. So since I'm passing all that savings on to you, obviously, that has a lot of value. Um, so let's see. Our goal today is that we want to start the process of splitting our SayIt application into a back end and front end. And in particular, on the back end, what we're going to do is create a RESTful API that will just have endpoints for different database actions. So essentially what we're going to put in place is all the database work necessary to support the app. And I know what you're thinking. It's like, wait a minute, we already have a database actions and it's already working, and the application looks great as it is. I'm just showing you another way that you can divide these applications up. And again, one reason to do this is that if you're going to have multiple front ends to an app, it's actually pretty nice to define all your database stuff once, and then every app uses that API. So if you have an Android app and you have an iOS app and you have a web app, and possibly other platforms, all of them can share the same API code. So you just write that once. So I'm going to show you kind of how to do that, and then we'll see ways you could tie in the front end. The other thing is sometimes you might want to do your front end with one particular framework and the back end in another framework. A few more disclaimers. If I was gonna really do an API for production, whatever, and I liked Laravel, and Laravel is actually pretty good for an API, I would actually look at a little product they have called Lumen, Lumen, and it's really kind of set up and streamlined and optimized specifically for creating an API. But it's written by the same folks and has a pretty bunch of the same code base as Laravel. But since we've been learning Laravel, I don't want to throw another complicated thing in here, so we're just going to go ahead and stick with what we know. So first thing, here I am in my public HTML directory. I'm going to start with a brand new clean Laravel app. So I'm going to say Laravel new. I'm going to call it SayIt API Backend, and we're going to eventually have an API front end. So it's going to go ahead and create that application for me. There is going to be a little bit of setup necessary for this to work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just take a minute to copy a couple things over that I think will be helpfor. So some stuff that we did in our previous homework assignment, that is the SayIt homework assignment, SayIt Laravel. The .env file, a lot of that stuff is going to come in handy, so I'm going to copy the env file over. I think the app users file, I'll need to make maybe some more changes to it, but that was also pretty handy. So the app user, I'm going to copy that to SayIt API Backend App, and that'll save me a little bit of time. That may be the biggest stuff that we're going to fool around with. So let's see what we've got here. I just need to check that env file, so let me go ahead and change into that folder, and now I'll do all my work in here. On the env file, this is the SayIt API backend. I don't care about the app key. The app URL is SayIt API backend. Still PGSQL, still localhost, port 54321, still that's the database we're using. We're going to leave those and all this stuff commented out. I think that's pretty good. We do need to go ahead and go to config database.php and go down to the section where we specify a schema, and then again you're going to put your schema name here. That's definitely a change we need to make. I also want to see what we did with this app user file that we brought in. The table is in fact SayIt users and primary key is user ID. I actually do want to make one more change here, and this is kind of preemptive. You wouldn't know you need this, but in some of the code we went through, it's been about 30 minutes tracking down an error that was caused because of some kind of confusion over date format. And so actually I'm just going to paste that string in here, and I'm going to say a few words about it. We want to set the date format. This is specifically for if you have a Postgres database and you have a time zone, time stamp with a time zone in it, then you need to say this is how we're going to format it. It'd be great if you could copy these exactly. It's capital Y dash lowercase m dash lowercase d space capital H colon I colon S followed by a capital O. That is not a zero. That's the format string that we want there. I think that may be all that we need to do with that right now. And so let's see. I think what I want to do now is try to get the simplest route I can come up with and see if I can get that thing to work. And then kind of once we have that in place, then we can kind of move forward and start pushing on some other routes. So a few things. One of the things I need to do is create a controller. So I'm going to say PHP artisan make controller, and we're going to do the SayIt controller again. This is going to be our main controller that we're going to use. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and delete this welcome blade.php. This app that we're working on, it's just the backend, so there will not be any views at all. The only data we return is going to be in JSON format. So we can get rid of that. Let's see. I need to define a route. First of all, routes web, again, there's going to be no web accesses. So again, I'm going to take out any routes from routes web, and all our routes will go in the routes API. I think I'm going to get rid of that. We'll be defining quite a few routes before it's all said and done. So the main route, this is the route that I'm envisioning we would use to pull in a list of the top 10 messages. We're going to call that route messages. So if they visit the messages route, they get a list of the top 10 messages. I'm going to, in my SayIt controller, I'm going to define a function called getMessages that will return that information. So let's go ahead and go to our controller. And see what we can come up with. All right, we have to write the function that we just said we were going to call in the route. So that'll be get messages. It will take a request object. I'll call it rec. And let's see what we've got here. I'm just going to follow notation that we've done a few times before by defining the SQL string separately, just because I think it's clearer when we do that. So here's the query we're going to perform. Select star from get recent message is. That's the name of the view. And basically I'm just going to return. I'm going to call perform that SQL statement in my database. Oh, since I'm using the DB class, that kind of helper class, I need to say illuminate. I need to include it up here. Support facades DB. All right. So I think we're ready to test this little route out. My URL is going to be https://csci.hsutx.edu/tilde tsargent. That gets me in my public, and then it's SayIt, Laravel, no, SayIt API backend, public API messages. Whew. Okay, so all this stuff in front up through API, that's just kind of the base for accessing the API. So when I said the route was messages, then it's starting from right here. So let's see what we get when we do that request. Says, okay, that was not found. Let's see if we can track that down. Oh, yeah, I just fiddled with that a little bit. What I think it is that htaccess file. We're not rewriting our values properly. So let's see. Let's go edit public.htaccess. I'm going to delete what's there. It seems like I put something up on just CFAs that would solve some of the pain and suffering. So let's see if we can go to Files and Programs. Where did we put the htaccess file? Laravel.htaccess. Okay, that's what we want. So I'm just going to copy this code and paste it in. I'm going to set paste. And then I'm going to paste it in. That's a little better. Boy, that'd be great if that fixed it. Let's see how we did. Send. Okay. Now this error message, okay, yeah, I've had that before. It's basically saying it doesn't have permissions to write to Laravel log. Long story, but that Laravel log gets created automatically when you type PHP artisan commands, or when you kind of visit web pages, it creates the log. And so since I created it from the, let's just make sure this is true. If I look at storage logs, hold on.